I was the founder of Genesis, which is now called Burson Master. I ran the Asia Pacific region for them. Then I was Asia MD for PSB, which is a niche consulting firm. It runs Fortune 100 CEOs as its clients. I ran Mr. Modi's campaign in 2012. Now I run my own consulting firm called Astrum. And I also am the founder of Impact, which is India's largest media intelligence company. I have 30 years in public relations and communications that you can value and gain from in the next 20 minutes, which is impossible, right? And what you heard from Rajan is actually pure gold. But you'll need years of work in public relations to get even 5% of what Rajan said. So I'm not going to bore you by giving you some gyan about public relations that you won't take back home. So here's what we're going to do. We've got a bunch of tables here, right? I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask me one question per table that you're dying to ask, which is the most relevant question for you, which you will find useful to take back from this session. Any question about your career, about the work, about skills, whatever you want to know, one question that you're searching an answer to, that you're afraid to ask, or you want to ask, or you desire to ask from anybody that may have the knowledge to know, I'll try to answer that question for you. All right? Good to go? I can't hear you.
Yes, sir.
You had lunch?
Yes, sir.
I haven't had lunch. All right? So, all right, question. So raise your hand, one table, I'll get the mic to you, and we can ask the question. I'll try to find you the answer. All right? This is going to be a conversation, not a monologue. 20 minutes spent in having a conversation that's important and relevant to you. All right, what's your question?
So if I am running a campaign for Prime Minister Modi, so what kind of skills do I need, you feel?
Right. All right, first of all, when you think about running a program of that nature, right? We are talking about a population that votes. What do you think is the voting population of this country? 60%. What is the voting population of this country? Any guess? 850 million. 85 crores. Of which 64% turned out. Right? So the first and foremost idea that I want to build on in trying to answer that question is for you to understand, for any program to be successful, you've got to first understand who your audience is. A lot of people keep asking about digital, AI, press, media, and I keep asking this one simple question. Who do you want to address? If you don't know who you want to address, how do you know what you want to say? Right? I can come and talk to you about crisis communication. And I want to ask this question. Raise your hand. How many people in this room want to be crisis communicators? How many people in this room want to be crisis communicators? So I'm addressing less than 1% of the population. That's my point. The point is not to diswrite the session. What you heard from Rajan is pure gold. Okay? What is important to understand is for a public relations practitioner or a communicator in the 21st century or any other century, the first and foremost skill that you need to acquire is the ability to understand the attitudes, beliefs, and makeup of your audiences. If you don't understand what your audiences want or who your audience is, how are you going to talk to them? Why do you call Mr. Modi the great communicator? Because he talks in the language that you want to hear, and he talks about the things that you want to hear. Right? That's the most important part. My polling, and we talk about science, right? We ran India's largest polling exercise during the campaign of 2012. That was a sample size of about 500,000 people, covering 350 constituencies. That's about 70% of the constituencies in the parliament. That's the extent of the research we undertook to understand audiences to be able to craft the narrative for our client. Got it? So first, and understand the fact that audience and science forms the foundation of an effective communication program. Next question. Next question. If you don't have any questions, I'll close the session. You can go back home. Thank you very much. Yes.
So when's the best time? Yeah. So Ashwani, what do you think, when's the best time to start your own agency?
Anytime is a good time to start your own firm. To be an entrepreneur, there's no age limit. It depends on what skill you have and what you want to market and who's going to buy. There is no fundamental age limit to what you want to do to be an entrepreneur. You could have a skill set which could be very, very valuable at this point of time. So I don't think age is a constraint to entrepreneurship. All right? And this time when capital and opportunity abounds, why should you allow age to be a mitigating factor at all? I don't think you should think about age or is there a perfect time to start an agency. It depends on what is the nature of your service and what is the skill set that you're building. Because at the end of the day, we are a professional service firm, right? What do people buy? They buy three things. They buy creativity, they buy expertise, and they buy experience. You have to divide, you have to understand what are the three things, in what combination you're selling them. If I'm running a management consulting firm, I sell expertise as number one, I sell experience as number two, and maybe creativity as number three. If I'm selling an advertising firm, then creativity is number one, expertise number two, experience number three. If I was selling an audit firm, experience is number one, expertise is number two, creativity maybe not. Creative accounting can lead to a lot of trouble. So it depends as to what's the triac combination you have if you want to be an entrepreneur. But there's no age limit to entrepreneurship. All right? Okay, next question. Yes.
So like we heard in,
Ashwani's my name.
oh, sorry. We heard in all the sessions on how we should prepare for PR, how to enter, how to do, but we also heard very conflicting opinions. Like one of the guests said that you should be multi-talented. Other one said specialize in one skill. So if you were in our place, in your 20s again, so how would you pick? Because the options sometimes get very confusing. Like it seems a good option, but the demand can be different, and there's also a desperation to get the first job, just to land a job. So how will you deal that?
Thank you. Very, very important and a very profound question. So what's the skill set today that you need to be able to look at it? I'll give you my son's example, right? He's in the business with me. He's 31 years old. He's an ESG consultant. He's an economist, environmental economist. That's his expertise. And he said, well, Dad, I've done my master's from London School of Economics. Now I want to do an MBA. MBA takes him to a generalist. I said, look, the age of generalization is really over. The age of specialization is what you're looking at. Because if you even look at the data, there is actually a drop in the total number of admissions and applications for MBA schools. So what is it that we are looking for today? Today, the talent is what we call a T-shape requirement. In a T, what is the long stem? Is the horizontal long or the vertical long? Is the vertical long or the horizontal long? The vertical's long and the T is still there. So you need to think about what general skills that you possess, which are relevant in the larger scheme of your profession, but what's the deep specialization that you want to build? Right? Being a multidisciplinary professional is important in the 21st century skill set, but having a core specialization, which is your stock in trade, is a foundation in which you will build the future of your career. People in the next generation will look for deep specialization, not broad generalizations. Right? So yes, you need to be a T specialist. You need to have a certain set of general capabilities, but you need to build a long stem capability of your vertical T. Right? And that not necessarily, again, look, most people will tell you, well, media relations is the basic stuff of public relations. I disagree. Media relations can be very strategic, but media relations can be on a spectrum of strategy to publicity. If you're a publicist, you're penny wise. You're a strategist, you're dollar wise. So you have to decide what's the spectrum of capability that you're building. So that would be my sense to you, that think about the generalization that you want to build, but also focus on the specialization that you're going to be able to build as your core competence over the period of the next decade or two as you start to build your career. Make sense? How many people agree or disagree? You agree? You agree? That's great. Then, all right, raise your hand and tell me you agree. All right, well done. Next question then. All right, here, let's go.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Anupriya. Hello. Sir, with your extensive experience, could you please elaborate on how integrating scientific methodologies can improve or strengthen PR strategies or in public relations?
A subject close to my heart. I want you to turn around and look at that lady in red, sitting right behind. Hi, her name is Sharda. You know who Sharda? Sharda is the co-founder of Astrum. We worked together for the last 15 years. That's a half-life of my profession. And you know what's her designation besides being a co-founder? She's the Chief Science Officer of Astrum. What does the Chief Science Officer of Astrum do? You know what? The Chief Science Officer of Astrum is tasked of putting science in the heart of everything that we do. What is the science? The science is the trifecta of three things that you want to think about. When you think about science, there are three sciences where we look at. We look at social science. You know what is social science? How societies respond. Go back to the first question. If you want to influence mass campaigns, public service campaigns, election campaigns, or large consumer brands, you're not going to be talking to small limited audiences, you're going to talk to large segments of audiences. You need to be able to understand how people behave in collectives. That's social science. You're also going to think about the new science of neuroscience, the psychology of influence, brains. You know your brain is wired to respond to colors, sound, sights, emotions. You know that your brain responds to words, images. Why do you feel good when you go into a coffee shop and you smell a lovely bread baking and coffee and you feel like, oh, I want to have a cup of coffee? It's actually your human brain stimulating the response of fresh coffee being brewed. That's cognitive behavior. When you understand cognitive science, you understand influence and persuasion. Right? So that's social science, neuroscience. And then you understand data science, where it comes to the rational, because your mind and your heart are two parts in why you make decisions, right? We buy bottled water. We drink water, why? Because we're thirsty. But we make choices because of our mind, right? Bottled water versus glass water versus tap water. So our mind's always making the choices between what's rational and what's emotional. The emotional creates the affinity. So when you understand science, and that's what I go back to the first answer, when you understand your audiences, when you understand what makes them tick, you will understand how you need to be able to respond and create the narratives so you're able to create a better sense of persuasion. That's science. And if you don't put science in the heart of your communication, there's no 21st century. But incidentally, if you thought this was a new phenomena I was talking about, not really. If you look at any text, okay, which the founding fathers of our profession, and I go back a lot into the history, and I can take you back 100 years plus in this history. 1911 is when we really founded the professional public relations business. Walter Lippmann, if you remember the name, you can write it down, Walter Lippmann or Edward Bernays. These are the founding fathers of our profession. If you read their work, and in the early 1900s, you will see extensive use of research and science in creating, defining public relation programs which are based on the science of persuasion. So science, an application of science, is not new. It is the heart of our profession. And I would encourage every young communicator sitting at the cusp of a profession to please do think about studying science, or at least incorporating the use of science in your everyday work, in asking the questions about, do I understand the audiences that I'm going to be talking to? How much do I understand about them? What do I know about them? Where are they? What do they like? What do they dislike? What do they think about the subject that I'm trying to engage them with? Ask those fundamental questions. You'll be amazed how much clarity it provides you about what you need to do from a communication perspective. Then the platforms become irrelevant, whether it's digital, whether it's media, whether it's anywhere else. Those are just platforms. What's central to anything that happens in success in communication is what's your narrative. If your narrative is good, you know, I spoke in Turkey a long while back, and I was I was speaking to this conference of a bunch full of scientists, and my brief there was to say, hey, these scientists do great amount of work, but they really don't know how to communicate to public about the quality of their work. And President Obama had just won his first term, and suddenly everybody was talking about digital and what he had done about digital, and everybody was talking about David Plouffe and the amazing work that digital had done. I stood there in front of the audience, and I asked the question. I said, does anybody remember what was his message? And everybody got up and put their hands up and says, change has come to America. I said, the platform isn't important. The message is. Do you know which is the most powerful vision statement ever made? It's just 2 words. Do you know which is the most powerful vision statement ever made as public relations practitioners? It's just 2 words. And it's Indian. Think. One guess. You know what it is? It's called Quit India. It was a call that the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, and everybody understood it, right? From the most intellectual to the most basic, uneducated person understood Bharat Chodo. Quit India. And that created a revolution. That's the power of simple communication, which resonates with the attitudes, beliefs, and emotions of the people. So remember, if you spend your lifetime perfecting one skill as communicator, which is to be the master of the message, you will be the most premium communicator in the world. All right? Any more question? Last, before my time runs out. Okay, we got 2 questions. We'll take that. All right.
Hi Ashwani, I'm Dr. Mukta from Sharda University. So I'm faculty to those 5 adorable PR professionals, would-be professionals. So my question is that we keep on talking about, the gap between industry and academia. So as a teacher, how could I help them? That could be one of the questions because all the kids, they are talking about their skill set and everything. So as a teacher, what should be my skill set so that I can help them to achieve their first jobs?
Well, my belief is we need to get education closer to employability, and that gap will only close if we get a lot more practical inputs into the theory. So my purpose of education has always been, and if there's one thing that I love doing, is teaching, right? And if you look at any reading that I've done, or if anything that you will read about me, you will see that in all my conversations, I bring only one thing forward. I said my greatest satisfaction has been that I was able to invent a program called the ALP program, which is called the Associate Leadership Program in Genesis, which produced the first generation of leaders of this industry. And you'll find CEO and global leaders in the PR industry who are graduates of this program. Right, Amit Prabhu, who's the coordinator of Praxis and the founder of Praxis, is the first graduating class of that program, just to give you an example of that. So talent investment is a very important investment. And I believe that from campus to corporate, to make that gap, we need to be able to root some amount of our education in the reality of our profession. Sometimes I feel the gap becomes a little bit more theoretical. So getting a lot more industry exposure to the kids is important, and getting a little bit more of time spent within the consulting world and the corporate communication world for the children or the students. Children would hardly be a valid statement. They're all adults. So with the students or potential practitioners, I would say would be something which is very important. I welcome internships, as many as possible, so that people actually get to work on real life projects and get to see the profession at work. So yeah, apprenticeships or internships are something that we should encourage a lot more. So I would say that, yes, of course. And Deepti, who's the CEO of PRC, and I have often spoken, and one of the things that I do believe, and that's my pet project at some point of time, that we really need to reinvent the curriculum of public relations education in this country. I think it's outdated a little bit. So it needs to be reinvented in the new reality of the profession. So we need to bring it a lot more science and in the present. And if we can do those two, three things, sort of reinvent the curriculum and get it a little closer to the industry, I think we'll be able to do a far better job of preparing our students to be more premium. To that extent, let me add something which is relevant to the people. The industry laments the fact that we don't pay people well. The reason people don't get the premium because they don't come out of the colleges with the skill set that demand premium. When you can create students who are prepared and well prepared to be able to create that premium, that discussion is going to become moot. My goal is to get there. That students coming out of public relations schools should be equated to the best lawyers, best chartered accountants, best doctors coming, because it is a profession. It's not a time pass. If we can invest in this industry as a profession and create career professionals with that level of rigor and discipline, you will not find the challenge of premium. And that is what is required for us to be able to create the careers. Sorry, ma'am. Make sense?
My question is around work-life balance.
Yes.
Soon we are going to enter into the industry, I hope. So my question is, like, do you think work-life balance is something that realistically is something that is achievable, or is it like more of a, work-life integration?
All right. Again, a very pertinent question. So let me ask a question back again. What is the definition of work-life balance, according to you? Random answers. Come on. What's the definition of work-life balance? This table. What do you think is work-life balance? Office stays in the office. All right. But if you work from home? All right. So you think time. You're saying I need to qualify time. So let's look at time as a unit. Okay, so you are saying personal life and there should be time. Okay? Weekends, days, okay? Professional and personal life. Boundaries. Yes. Okay, good. What else? Toxic culture. All right. That's work-life balance or a culture issue? Right. What else? This table. Work-life balance. What is it? I want to ask this generation. What is work-life balance? You agree with whatever they said or you got something new? All right. Let's get first fundamental choices. In a hybrid world, which is the world of tomorrow and today, right? Part work from home, part work from office, or in any other world, unit of time is an important consideration because we can't have 24 hours of personal life, we can't have 24 hours of professional life. Unit of time is an important qualification. But unit of time and work does not come by 9 to 5 or 5 to 9, does it? Do crisis and personal challenges come on in fixed time? कि नहीं अगर हमको शादी करना है या बर्थडे करना है तो हम सिर्फ 6 बजे के बाद करेंगे नहीं हम सिर्फ पैदा होंगे 6 बजे के बाद बिकॉज 9 से 5 में तो ऑफिस टाइम है life does not afford us those choices. Therefore, when you start to think about work-life balances, think about not unit of time, but think about choices. When you need to make what choice? There are times when work will come first at the cost of personal choice. But there are times when personal choices will take priority over professional choices. When you have the maturity and the sensibility to make those choices, then you will find the balance will choose yourself. Let me give you an example. It comes naturally. Your best friend's wedding. Best friend's wedding. Okay? What will you choose? And the most important, the biggest client's most important function. What will you choose?
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Okay, let me say, if I was in your choice, I'd choose my best friend's wedding and I'll make sure that my client's work did not suffer. I'll make sure first I put everything in order before I get. So when you think about choices are, at the same time, if it was your friend's, best friend's, third friend's wedding, I don't think I would be choosing that wedding to go to. I'd choose my client. So it's just an example. As long as we discharge our professional responsibilities and make the choices when we do need to make the choices, life's fine. No organization, at least in my principle since the time I have worked, I've always paid premium to flexibility. And the more flexible we are, and I have found, here's a great example of Sharda and many other. It's a fact that 65% to 70% of people professionals who work in public relations happen to be women. You will have marriages, just as men will. You will have children. But unfortunately, the rules in society put a gender premium on women taking greater role in homes. That's a different debate altogether. I agree or don't agree, doesn't matter, but that's a reality that you face with every single day, and that's a fight. We don't put that fight. We simply say, it's a choice you need to make, and we are comfortable with the choice. If you need to make those choices, work from anywhere. It doesn't really matter. So, work-life balance is fundamentally important to anything that you do. In life, proportion is important. Right? So make the choices. not go by units of time, but go by units of choices. When you make the smart choices, you will all be happy and you will be able to do all of these things that you said. Weekends, weekdays, doesn't matter. All right? Okay, well, this was a great conversation. I hope it was meaningful. Right? So thank you very much for your time. Lovely being in conversation with you. Have a nice evening.